in the 2020 agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. All right. So we do have some people who want to speak to a couple of the agenda items this evening, but the first priority is the tax rate hearing. So is anyone here that has signed up to speak, wanting to speak regarding the tax rate hearing? All right. Let me have Stacy Stark then speak to us first, and we'll have Stacy, you're speaking on the reopening.
I asked.
It's fine.
What's the question?
Oh, can I take the mask off to speak?
Oh, sure, yes.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to share tonight. I'm not a good public speaker, so I'm kind of reading. I'm also thankful for the great deal of time and energy you're devoting to the community. I know that you all want kids to return to school too. So in many ways, I'll be preaching to the choir. But my hope is not to add any more pressure to you on what you likely already feel, but to stand with the teachers and students and other parents already wanting the choice to return to the classroom and stay in the classroom as soon as possible. My name is Stacy Stark. I grew up in Raytown, and in 2015, my husband and I chose to move our young family from Lee Summit to the Raytown area. I have a daughter in second grade who has attended New Trails of Little Blue, and a son who's currently in pre-K. This year, we made the decision to withdraw both our children from Raytown schools and instead educate them at home. My daughter has an IEP. We did not feel that virtual learning would be positive or effective for our family. These were difficult choices to make, choices we are thankful to have the privilege to make in the first place. But our children are thriving. I'm here tonight, though, thinking of the children and families who are not. In March, when Jackson County ordered schools to close, it was to slow the spread of COVID-19 and not overwhelm our local hospitals. We have done that. It was also to give us time to learn more about the virus and how it spread. Today, in September, we have data that tells us that children are unlikely to be the main drivers of the COVID-19 pandemic. According to a review article published by ACTA Pediatrica, I believe, a peer-reviewed monthly journal at the forefront of the international pediatric research. Upon study of 700 scientific papers and letters and 47 full text, their review states children accounted for a small fraction of COVID-19 cases. Household transmission studies showed that children were rarely the index case, and case studies suggested that children with COVID-19 seldom caused outbreaks. Their conclusion, children are unlikely to be the main drivers of the pandemic. Opening up schools and kindergartens is unlikely to impact COVID-19 mortality rates in older people. When the COVID outbreak in Sweden began, the country made the surprising decision to not close any schools for children under ages 16. A report published by the Public Health Agency of Sweden compared data between Sweden and Finland, who did shut down their schools. Their report summarized, outbreak investigations in Finland have not shown children to be contributing much in terms of transmission, and in Sweden, a report comparing risk of COVID-19 in different professions showed no increased risk for teachers. In conclusion, closure or not of schools has no measurable direct impact on the number of laboratory-confirmed cases in school-aged children in Finland or Sweden. Much still remains unknown about COVID-19, but we have more evidence and data than we did back in March. That evidence tells us that children are not major contributors to driving the spread of this virus. Asymptomatic transmission is possible but rare. And the survival rate for the CDC's update on September 10th is 99.99% for ages 0 to 19. For the teachers and staff who may be between the ages of 20 and 69, the survival rate is over 99.5%. The negative educational, social, and emotional impacts of school closures, however, are certain. We desperately need decision makers who will make these decisions about returning and the modifications upon returning based on evidence and data, and not fear and politics. I've heard people say that if keeping schools closed will save even one child, it's worth it. To that, I wonder, what about saving one child from abuse or neglect? Not all kids are safe at home. What if we save one child from going hungry? And what if returning to school prevents one child from committing suicide at home in isolation? Thank you for your work on getting our children back into school where they belong and for basing those decisions on data rather than widespread fear. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Stacy. Anna Hoffman, want to speak on reopening?
Good evening. My name is Anna Hoffman. I am a senior at Raytown High School. This year I am enrolled in the Foundations of Nursing class through Herndon. I'm also taking AP Stats, College Physics, Spanish 5, and I am the group president of the theater group at Raytown South High School. I'm also the top 1% of my class, like I have been the past 3 years. I will also be speaking on the reopening plan. And as a student, I can say I would love to be in person. I would love to see teachers and friends, but as a member of the community, I can say that it isn't safe. Virtual learning ensures the protection of the students, the staff, the families, and the surrounding community. According to Mark Hoffman, the Chief Research Information Officer at Children's Mercy, as of September 27th, yesterday, the 7-day moving average of daily deaths in Missouri is 33. This is the highest it has been since Missouri started keeping data as starting March 19th. This is absolutely no time to start sending our children and students to school. Doing so would put lives in danger. According to the New York Times, as of yesterday, 1 in 51 people in Jackson County are testing positive. 1 in every 3,871 of those people are dying. Now, I know that doesn't sound like a big deal to you guys. When you put it onto a district level, it's a big deal. This year we have 8,200 students enrolled with 1,400 employees. That is 9,600 people. So based on the current county average, 189 students and staff members will test positive. That doesn't include the ones that already have from this past summer. At least 3 of them will then die. I would like to know whose lives you are willing to risk to have us back in school. I want the board to know that while being in person would be great, it's not the right option. And I say that as a student who misses it. But I understand this pandemic isn't about me or what makes my life convenient. This pandemic is about what's best for the greater good. The best option, the right option, is to stay virtual. Because remaining virtual ensures all staff, all students, all families, and the entire community will be safe. And I didn't have the option to even be virtual this semester. Anyone who enrolled in Perkins, AP, or deliberative classes is required to be in person. In order to feel safe this year, I would have had to give up 3 years of hard work to be where I am. Thank you for letting me speak, and I hope you guys make the right decision for the community.
Thank you, Anna. Appreciate hearing from our students. Jenny Perkins wants to speak on reopening.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Perkins. I'm a mother of 3 children in the Raytown School District, a 2nd grader, 5th grader, and 7th grader. I'm here tonight to speak on the reopening plan. First, I would like to recognize the staff within our district. They've not only been beyond helpful, but also full of so much patience and compassion. Watching them on Zoom has been very heartwarming. I would like to thank the district for your continuing efforts to get meals to families, Wi-Fi where needed, and the overall support. I realize in this season there's no answer that will make everyone happy. I would love for my children to return to school, but I believe this is not the right answer at this time. Here are a few examples on why. As of yesterday, all schools and middle schools in the Grant Public School in Gray, Michigan have gone virtual to slow the spread of COVID-19. They started school on 8/31. As of 9/24/2020, all of Oshkosh District in Wisconsin have gone virtual. They originally started on 8/17 with only K-3 full-time and 4-12 hybrid. Durham, North Carolina, their public school system has announced they will remain virtual into 2021. Kansas City, virtual/some distance learning with no date mentioned. Lee Summit, K-3, only 24 cases. Yes, but 295 people have been quarantined so far. Blue Springs, 21 cases with 55 quarantines, with an 86% in-person enrollment. I know that our number was a 70% number enrollment. How will we handle an 86%? These are just a few of the districts I researched. I could have literally gone through every 50 states and found a district that is just like this. There are so many things I would love to stand up here and speak to, but I could be here all day. IEPs especially, kids with IEPs that require them to move around or have a soft space, such as somebody with epilepsy. How will you do that at school? How will you put a child with epilepsy in a couch or in a beanbag? And we've had to remove all of those. I personally know so many parents who are seeing their child thrive academically or mentally due to less distraction, less bullying, and just less negativity going on around them. I also know it goes the other way too. I'm not like that. I will close with this. I'm a bartender. I heard in the last school board meeting a parent say that there are parents out there that we're all doing what we are supposed to be doing and we're all staying home. I can tell you that is false. I am currently ranked one of the highest risk exposures outside of medical profession. Do you want my 3 children to attend your schools? Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. And is there Jennifer Stagel? Was that the one that's going to speak through? She's on Zoom that's going to speak to us. Jennifer Stagel. Okay. There she is.
Sorry, I think it kicked me out there.
Yeah, she just let you in. We had Jennifer, so
Okay, you can hear me okay?
go ahead.
All right. Well, thank you for your time. I'll keep this brief. I know this is like an extra school board meeting. So my name's Jennifer Stengel. I've lived in Raytown since 2008, and I have twins in 2nd grade currently. Our kids participated in the summer school program as long as they could before a quarantine hit. And then we've also been involved a little bit in the Great Expectations offering that was opened up recently. I feel like our teachers have done amazing given all that's going on, and at least from summer school, it sounded like the younger kids handled masks and distancing and hand washing and all of that good stuff better than a lot of people expected. I know my kids certainly took to it better than I expected. Among the 4 weeks of live instruction or live interaction that we experienced between summer school and Great Expectations, we also got 4 weeks of quarantine out of that, none of which resulted in positive tests for my own kids. At least anecdotally, I'm glad to see that it seems like masks and hand sanitizer and all of the things that we're doing seemed to prevent spread, even though they were spending all day with someone who was infected. I just want to share that because we've had these teachers really killing themselves trying to provide as much quality education as possible under the circumstances, I don't want to see a reopening plan that would add any more strain to the teachers. I know that whatever we do, whether it's in person or more virtual or whatever, there's going to be ongoing changes, and there's not much to do about that at this point. So basically, I just want to say, I know in the summer there was some discussion of simultaneous online and in-person instruction. I don't know if that's still on the table as a possibility, but I wanted to urge us to not look at that as an option for in-person. I really would rather see full in-person or full virtual. I think trying to have half a room of kids with you and half a room online would just be too much. I can already see the strain on the teachers' faces just at this point as they try to meet everybody's needs. Just our family has one kid with ADHD and one in the challenge program. So we have a range of needs just in our own family that they're trying to meet, and are spending a lot of time and effort to figure out solutions for each kid. So that would be my main feedback, is I think 50-50 poses a lot of problems, not just the strain on teachers, but having germs sort of coming and going when we don't know where the kids are going to be on their off day and then coming back in, and just kind of adding more variables to the mix. My only other thing would just be to communicate to the parents any additional Great Expectations options that might be available whenever a decision is made as soon as possible. But I thank everybody that spent so much time on getting this worked out, and good luck figuring out what to do next.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. Appreciate everyone who spoke to us tonight, and we will be hearing a brief reopening update in just a few minutes. But first, I will entertain a motion on approving the proposed tax rate.
Mr. President, I move that the board approve the proposed tax rate of 5.1600 for incidental and $1.16 for debt service, for a total tax rate of $6.32 in compliance with the RSMO section 137.073.2 based on the Jackson County Notice of Assessed Evaluation 2020.
Second.
And there's a motion and a second. And I believe that rate is unchanged. Dr. Shelton, are you going to speak first to the tax rate, or anyone?
All right. Yes, thank you. I'll just take any questions if you have them. And you're correct, Mr. Moore, that tax rate is identical to what it was last year.
Okay, we'll just see if any board members have any questions. There is no one here that wanted to speak to the tax rate hearing. Any board members have any questions for Dr. Shelton or Dr. Markley on the tax rate? You guys can all hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. If there's no other questions or comments, we will vote on the motion. All in favor of the motion as stated, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. And the motion carries. All right, thank you very much. Let's just have the reopening update, since there's people here who are interested in hearing that. We'll do the reopening update first, and then we'll do the board goals.
Good evening, everybody. If you would, go ahead and open up the attachments to the agenda. I'm sorry, good evening. If you would go ahead and open up the attachments to the agenda. And we will walk our way through that a little bit. Let me emphasize that, first off, this is just a collection of ideas that are gathered that the administration is bringing to the board today, based on different conversations that we've had with the collective groups associated with the schools. And there are more meetings to come, specifically tomorrow. The reopening committee will be meeting, which includes staff, students, parents. And
Hey, Brian, would you ask them to open it up for us who are on Zoom, please?
Travis is on the meeting, and he will make sure that happens. There you go. He's right there making it happen. All right. So yes, we would like to have as many folks as possible included in that, because eventually we do want this to turn into a more recommendation for the board for the October 12th meeting. But we also wanted to get your thought juices flowing with some of the information that we've gathered to this point, based on the input that we have from those constituent groups. So please take this in light of what it is intended to be, and that is just that, as input for where we are right now, to try to get you prepped up for October 12th, so you have an idea of what kind of ideas are floating around out there. And also keep in mind that what we have here is based on what we are dealing with today. And as already been mentioned, the numbers for Jackson County continue to fluctuate, and while we have been in a downward trend for a while, it does look like we're in more of an upward trend lately, and we never know what that's going to look like in a week or 2 weeks or several weeks, so keeping that in mind as well. So the plan as we have it sitting right now is for pre-K and elementary to return at 100% on October 26th, which would be the first day of the second quarter. Secondary to remain virtual for the remainder of the semester. And obviously the board would make decisions on what would happen with secondary and elementary later on this school year, after, and if the decision is to follow these ideas. Department and RSA are looking into what their ideas might be. They're getting more feedback from their staff through this week. And they are unique programs and with unique needs, but also with unique opportunities. As for instance, RSA has class sizes that are very small, typically 8 to 10. The class sizes at Herndon, while larger, they have classrooms that are enormous. And they also have programs, both of them, that are very difficult to do virtual. And so below this, and I'm sorry, pause me if you have any questions along the way, but I'm going to go through this fairly quickly. And so below that, there's rationale for pre-K and elementary and why we are recommending, why we're talking about having them come back on the 26th. First off, the majority of pre-K and elementary teachers in the survey indicated they would wish this to happen. I believe 60%. There was 4 categories, 2 saying that they felt comfortable or somewhat comfortable, and 2 saying that if they were somewhat uncomfortable or completely uncomfortable. 60% of the teachers said that they felt comfortable, and classified staff as well, it's the same percentage. 60% said they would felt comfortable, very comfortable having students come back. Only 20% saying that they felt very uncomfortable. It's very difficult to teach the younger students, as was kind of intoned earlier in some of the people who spoke to the board. The students that are under 8, it's very difficult to teach them virtually, for anybody to teach them virtually. And we feel that there is a distinct advantage to having them in person. And we feel that the detriment for their long-term education, especially in reading abilities, it needs to be taken into account. That the longer they're out of school, the further they slip behind. And this is particularly true when we have at-risk populations as we do. Class sizes, we keep to the in-person class size to 70% or less, or as close to that as possible. And that's based on the state standards. And the states, so that is actual numbers are below. So pre-K, 10 or 20 with an IA. K2, 18, 3 through 4, 19, and 5th grade, 21 students.
Brian,
Yes,
so
ma'am.
are you saying that it will be 70% of the 18 for the K through 2, or that is the 70%?
That is the 17%. So K2 is 25 is class size, state standard class size. Now we would be able to do this by putting the virtual students, those classes would be at state standard or very close to it. All classes would be, socially distanced, and the recommendation for schools is 6 feet when possible, but 3 feet at least. And we'd be using a 3-foot standard, which is the standard put out by DESE and Children's Mercy, I believe. Travis will correct me if I'm wrong there. There you go. This is exactly just what he always says about what I say. This plan would be discussing having the students start on the 26th. At 100%. So we had talked about earlier a 2-week phase-in period, a hybrid period, where students would start off for those first 2 weeks at 50%. That gave teachers the ability to teach them the standards for this classroom, the procedures and processes. There is a lot of transition that our students have gone through already. We've already changed the schedule once for them, and we'd be coming back and changing it 2 weeks later. And also we're coming back into a very choppy beginning. We have that week of 26 only has 3 days in school, following week only has 4 days. And we're also talking about smaller class sizes. We want to have 100% of the students in class to be 70%, so it's smaller. So there you go. And then also other metro schools have students in session, as has been mentioned earlier today, and the elementary students in particular. They're fairly successful. We have a lot of tasks to complete down there. I will mention just a couple of them. One is that we do need to open up a window for our parents to make a change to their desires. As you've heard already tonight, whether we have open schools in session or doing virtually, it tends to change parents' minds when the imminent comes. So we know we had those commitments made in the summer. We'd like to reopen that commitment time for probably about 3 days, to give those parents the opportunity to take advantage of whatever direction they'd like to go. That would happen immediately after the board would make their decision, one way or another, because we do want to honor parents and where they are in the moment, because those Jackson County numbers, along with the decision of the board, may influence the direction they would choose to go.
Brian,
Yes, ma'am.
are you thinking parents would only have to make a choice if they're changing? Or would all parents have to opt?
No,
into
not
it?
all parents would make a choice. They would default to the choice that they made previously. It would only be if they changed their mind. And remember, the choice that we had to make was that through the end of the semester, if they chose in person, they could change back to virtual at any time. So there's no problem with that. But if they chose virtual, they could not choose in person until the end of the semester. This choice, actually, we would also change to be for the remainder of the year. And for secondary, we probably open up a similar window. That would be for second semester on. Because, well, I'll get to it in a second, we have to master schedule with secondary, which is a whole other issue.
But Brian, when you say end of the year, you mean school year,
School
not
year, yes.
2020. Okay.
Yes, and second semester starts mid-January, so this decision for secondary would not be until mid-January. All right, so and also along with that, there's a possibility with that of having the virtual students at least be taught across boundaries. And so we may have virtual students that are attending Robinson Elementary but are being taught by a Spring Valley teacher. We have the ability to do that, and then that allows us to smooth out the class sizes across 10 buildings instead of just amongst one building, where we might have 3 teachers. Now we can spread out amongst 30 teachers. So it does provide us some options there. Okay. I'll stop there for a second. Is there any questions about the elementary thoughts here?
Does anybody have any questions for Brian right now?
I have one question. When you said there's a possibility of needing to use some Title I or math teachers,
Yes, ma'am.
that would be if we had more in-person students than we expected, right?
No.
No.
When we model this today, based on the choices that folks have made prior to today, we have about 40%-ish students who are choosing to be virtual. As we model this today, we would need probably 3 to 5, maybe as many as 10 of our title teachers to become classroom teachers, so we could keep the 70% threshold where it needs to be for in-person. I will say candidly that this is not ideal, but we do feel that the benefits of having students in person are pretty significant and worth even looking at maybe letting some of our title teachers become classroom teachers for a time to make it work. Now, the possibility of that a large number of title teachers does exist, because when we open that window up, if we have more parents choose to be to not choose in person, they choose virtual, that could change our ratios, and it might make us be a little bit less efficient on the in person. We may have to have more folks come. It's very difficult to tell what's going to happen. It's going to cause our administrators to do scheduling within a couple days. That's going to be very complex, but we're up for the task.
I think they can do anything. After they've done this, I think
I agree.
it's a challenge they can.
Well, the comment was made about how hard our teachers are working.
Yes.
It is amazing. And it should, sometimes I think people think, well, you're virtual teaching, you're sitting at home in your comfy pants, in your lounge chair. It is complex and difficult. And I at the beginning of the year, I sent a video to a teacher saying, this is the most difficult thing that you've ever done. And I don't think that was wrong. And they are amazing what they're doing. So the secondary is a little bit less complicated. The secondary thought is just that they will be staying out for the remainder of the semester. And again, the weighing the dangers of coming back to school and the input that we got from staff, along with the merits of virtual instruction, lends us to think that we can do this for a longer period of time. Now, virtual instruction for a secondary school kid is, as you had heard from one of our seniors here tonight, who is very successful. I think that she'd be very successful whether it was in person or not. She's doing very well virtually, and that's good. And I think a lot of our kids are doing very well virtually. Our staff, it's the exact opposite. 60% of them feel that it is too dangerous to come back. It's the exact opposite from the elementary folks. And so for that reason, we feel like the end of the semester might be a better goal. And I'm not going to go through the rest of the document. It's there. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Anybody, any other board members have any questions for Dr. Huff? All right, thank you guys. Thank you very much. And we'll be looking forward to that. I think there's a reopened RQS committee meeting tomorrow. 3:30. 3:30. All right. So hopefully that will go well. All right. Next item is just our discussion, further discussion on board goals for 2021. I'll let Dr. Marco speak on that, but first I'll see if any board members have any comments to start us off regarding any of the board goals.
Mr. President?
Yes, I think that was.
Carolina. Just something that maybe we might want to think about as we go into this discussion. You know, when we first started about talking about goals, there was a lot of good ideas thrown out. There was a lot of potential changes and directions that we wanted to go as far as school and goals and how they would be applied to evaluations and what have you. It was very good. But right now we're on a completely different boat. When we were talking about those things, you know, we were in a boat going downstream. We were kind of all going in the same direction. We were working towards graduation. We wanted all our kids, whether they be special needs kids or challenge kids or Herndon kids, we wanted all of them to work into this river or into this boat and get out and graduate. And we wanted to do things as teachers and administrators and board members to see that we were putting the best program that we could in place for this to happen and for our teachers to succeed, our students to succeed, and our administrators to succeed. Right now, we're kind of in this same boat, but we're out on an ocean. We've got undercurrents, we've got hurricanes, we've got nice weather today, we've got tidal wave tomorrow, we've got all of these things hitting us, and all of them are connected to our goals and evaluations of where we want to go. But right now, just as something to think about, I'm not sure how we can work on goals like we have for 19 and 20 and 20 and 21 that are going to take care of what our goal right now should be, and that is to have safe schools, get kids back into school as quickly as possible, but as safe as possible for our staff, the whole gamut. So just kind of something to think about. I really wonder how far we want to go with working on our goals that match the 19, 20, and 21 with some different things and some tweaks to them and what have you. Or if maybe we just want to say, okay, we're going to operate under these, but here's some other goals that we want to make sure that we're having safe schools, having safe return, taking care of our staff, taking care of our district, and what, just kind of something to think about before we really get into this deep discussion. Thank you.
No, I agree with you, Mr. Landers. We're definitely in a different place than when we first started having this discussion several months ago. So, yeah, I definitely agree with everything you said.
Well, Mr. President, I agree too. I think, you know, literally we're just getting through. I mean, everybody is. People in this room and the staff and the students and people who are helping students. We're just walking through it day by day. I do, like I said last time, I love the statement that Dr. Shelton included about providing a viable and guaranteed curriculum for all. I think that should be written everywhere. And I'm sure that's part of your, I mean, you've of course talked to staff about that, but I really like that statement because that's what we're doing now for our students, you know, viable and guaranteed curriculum for everybody. So I'd like to include that somewhere, but yet I'm like Mr. Land, I just as soon leave it until we're all back. I just as soon just everybody just get through.
Yep, I hear you. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, you know, I've told you, I support my first grade granddaughter. And she's doing fine, and I know first grade, you know, I taught first grade many years, but honestly, Mrs. Hartnett, she doesn't know it, but she talked me down today off the ledge, kind of. I mean, she has no idea. She doesn't even see me on camera, hopefully. But, you know, it's difficult. And so, and I feel like I know what I'm doing, but we just have to walk through every day.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Tittle. Dr. Markley, do you have any comments you want to?
Thank you, Mr. President. Echo what two of the previous board members said, but also think about when we set these goals last year, we set out to try and meet these goals, and we really haven't had a chance to do so at this point. So I would say let's keep these goals, but our number one goal should be trying to find a way to get our kids back into school safely as possible, and the time that it takes to do that. And I think we're doing that through the reopening committee, listening to parents that come to meetings and that participate in the different committees. But that's my number one goal, is getting our kids back into school as safe as possible and making our schools as safe as possible for our staff. So that would be my number one goal at this point, while keeping all these goals and find a time when the time is right, maybe to rethink it.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I would like to echo everything that everybody has said, and as well add to the point that last year we narrowed down these goals. We made them more concise. They're broad statements with a few bullet points after each four. I remember at the time I was thinking, why are we putting in the technology plan? Just as every other plan is just as important, but hindsight, man, that's pretty good that it was there and it should remain. I'm struggling to understand why would the goals even need to change until we saw something that maybe in a different direction that we would move. But seeing that we did not complete the school year in person and wasn't able to try to achieve these goals or assess whether we even did it, or I just think we need to do a better job of not only making goals, but also assessing ourselves and reevaluating. It's like we're making a new goal without even expressing where we are in any one of these four. And also, the last thing I'll say is that our goals, board education goals, needs to be passed down to the administration and communicated back to us as far as how these goals will be achieved, and especially when it comes to evaluations that we conduct.
Yeah. Ms. Burton, I agree with that. I agree with those comments too. I don't really see any need to change any of these. I think there was a discussion as far as a better way to measure how we had achieved the goals as opposed to actually doing new goals again for this year. So I agree with everything that has been said so far. I'm okay with leaving everything as is, except for maybe adding the statement that Ms. Kittle made about the viable, creating viable education, but we're already well on our way to do that. But we can add that statement in here if we want to.
Mr. President,
Yes, it's all there.
I wanted to make a comment in reference to the board goals. I don't know whether it would be considered as a board goal, but I would like to bring it before the district, that the administration, that they would give thought to it and an answer to it about doing, since we are into virtual learning for the most part for many of our students, that we consider using virtual learning as an option for out-of-school suspension versus having, I know we're not there now because of the COVID issue, but for the future consideration and to consider virtual learning versus actual out-of-school suspension. I think that is an option that is already in place now, and it would not be anything that the district would have to recreate. This would have to do it maybe differently for those who receive out-of-school suspension. I would like that to be a consideration and a process that we implement.
All right. Yes, I think that's a good idea. I don't know if we can add it as a bullet point under one of these, or what do you guys think?
Mr. President.
Hey, hold on just a second. You guys think adding that as a bullet point, or where are you working toward those things, or?
Let's see what.
Okay, we'll come up with something, but yeah, that's a good idea to talk about, the out-of-school suspension and virtual learning. All right, I think.
It is a good idea.
All right. I think I heard Mr. Toad.
Yeah. Mr. President,
Yes.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised at the conversation. I understand we have significant issues that ahead of us with COVID, but candidly, we've never really been a board that likes to dig into issues of substance. For example, the issue that I brought up at the Finance Committee, shared it, we kicked it around, and the issue then was that we needed to examine our compensation and reward system for the 63 people that work at the central office. And there seemed to have been some traction there. I still think that is an area of work. And I thought Dr. Markley took some notes, and I thought you may have supported that. I think there are some other issues. I think the issue of ventilation in the schools. I know we've leaned on an assessment, but we're asking our kids to go back into the schools without having a response from that proposal effort. I mean, those are just a couple issues that need some time and some germination, and I can think of probably half a dozen others. And I appreciate that the teachers are extraordinarily busy. I appreciate that, but I think we have. I don't feel that we're quite as motivated, maybe, as we could be, as to getting into some of these issues that I just mentioned, and probably a half a dozen others that I could raise in probably the next 3 minutes. So if we want to, I mean, it's the end of September. If we want to take a pass and put this into the folder, I mean, that's what we'll do. But I don't think that's per se the kind of energy I think that we need to tackle and examine and resolve some issues that I think this district is facing. So I'm not going to get in the way, but I'm not going to, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I think I think we need to show some more energy behind some of these issues that I brought up, and probably some that I'm not going to bring up tonight.
All right, Mr. Tutty, did you, yes, we can look at some more of those things in depth, and they certainly need to be, but were you advocating any additions or changes to these?
Are you asking me, are you directing that question?
Well, Bobby suggested an idea of something she wanted to see added, and Amy mentioned the statements you would like to see added. Is everybody still there?
They're still there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'll see on the screen here.
It's hard to hear, frankly. I think if we're willing to take on the safety issue, an identification of ventilation issues within the school, and the need for potential remediation would be a goal. Second one is develop a compensation and reward system for central office personnel that helps us identify whether compensation for central office personnel reflects the contribution of those people that are working at that level. I mean, that's a real quick. And we talked about this. You were at the finance committee, I think, Mr. Moore, where we did talk about developing a compensation reward system for the central office.
Yeah,
and
I'm looking at that. I'm fine with that. We just normally don't put that level of detail into the goals, but we can.
Put that level of details in the goals.
In the actual goals statements, we don't usually put that level of detail in there.
And Mr. Moore?
Yes, Mr. Blander.
Just kind of a clarification for what I was saying as something to think about is what, we had a lot of these great ideas when we were starting to work on our goals. And this is what I meant is kind of when I said, when we can get back and we have a way that we can assess and evaluate and get the data on where we are, then I think that's a great time to add some of these ideas that we're coming up with right now. But I'm not sure that right now, because we don't have the data, especially like the one on the evaluation and compensation, we don't have that data where we can think about it tonight. I wouldn't want to, if you were going to ask us to vote on that, I'm not sure that I would have enough information to do that. Kind of like Alonzo said, we didn't finish the year, so we couldn't assess and collect the data as to where we were to make a valid judgment on what we want to do. So I think great ideas, but I think we need to be back. And as Amy said, when we can get back in person and we can transcend back and forth. Now, yes, I hope we're still working on ventilation. Hopefully that hasn't changed. That wasn't a goal, but that was I guess it was a goal to have ventilation, but hopefully that doesn't need to be added in because it's still there and we're working on it. Hopefully, I don't know. But that's what I was talking about, things to what we can think about for on down the way and not really start going into in-depth, what are we going to add tonight and what are we going to take away?
I agree. We're not going to vote on these tonight. We will plan to vote on them at the next regular meeting. And I'm hearing the general consensus is pretty much we need to just move forward and what we can do. Leave these goals pretty much the same with the exception of a few minor things. So I would ask anybody who has something they want to add to send that in writing so we can get it added in, and we'll have it today for the next actual board meeting. I think I heard
Mr. President.
Yes.
It's Alonzo. Everything I've heard since I last spoke, I think fits into the document that we already have. We need something support. We need our discussion. I believe should be focused around those goals, as in like the safe ventilation. That's part of having. Having ventilation is part of having a clean and safe environment, and the disaster plans and things like that. That's part of that. A viable curriculum is part of making sure that we're improving academically all the time, as well as eliminating the out of school suspension ideas. There's different. What I'm proposing is that the goals is not what we change, but we actually we just go deeper into what it is to evaluate. And I think that's what I think everybody's pretty much saying, is that we need to have more of assessment and evaluation of not just the goals, but also how they're being met and the strategies that we put forth from them.
Yeah, I agree with you, Alonzo. I think that is going back to what Mr. Tody said. We need to dig deeper. Instead of us just having goals to say we got goals, let's go deeper into those goals so that we are actually having an expression of what we say are goals, that we're literally seeing results of that. And I understand about the fact that we can't say that this year, but that's not an excuse for us not to dig deeper into the goals that are existing right now, to expand on them. When I mentioned about OSS, I wasn't saying to the district to make it a goal. I was asking the district to do that, really and truly, because I think that's very important. When we come back on in person, that should be something that we are already working in the process in the background right now to make that a reality, so that when we do come back in person, that's already something that's established.
Yeah, I agree. And on our agenda items, they always show which board goal they pertain to, but maybe in our future meetings, if we have at least one brief discussion item on one of the goals or one of the things under the goals, and what we're doing to meet or exceed the goals. And that way we can have a better look at every meeting and not just once or twice a year. So I'm really hearing that we pretty much want to leave these the way they are, and we'll just change it to 2021. Is everyone okay with that?
I am.
All right. But still, if you do have something, go ahead and send it in. All right. Any other comments on the goals or anything else before we entertain a motion to adjourn? Again, thank Melissa and her crew, all the tech people for all their hard work today and tonight. So appreciate that. Any final comments from anyone else? All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Mr. President, I move that the board adjourn the special Board of Education meeting at 6:24 p.m.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. All right. Thank you all very much. Appreciate everyone for attending.